Hi, you're in the C-Space Influencer Studio. I'm James Kotecki here at CES 2019 with Tiffany R. Warren, SVP Chief Diversity Officer at Omnicom.
Yes.
Welcome, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Today to chat, so let's start with a broad question.
Sure.
How do you define yourself and your role to someone that you're just meeting here for the first time at CES?
Sure. I've been defined in a couple of ways. In my role at Omnicom, this will be my 10th year in a couple of weeks, actually. I say that I'm a hope dealer and I'm a heart director. And essentially what that means is that I have the responsibility within Omnicom, and I've put this responsibility on myself in the industry to help people of color and people who feel marginalized to feel a part of what the industry has to offer, whatever that may be, marketing services, tech, design, media, but I'm here to facilitate those hopes and those dreams to be in this business.
And give me some examples of how you do that.
Yeah, I mean, this is my 21st year in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came into the industry, what I saw that was missing was a mentor, a Sherpa of some sort, to help guide me in my career throughout what I thought was a complicated maze of opportunity. And so, you know, we have various portals of entry. I came through one particular entry, which was the AAF Most Promising Student Program. I was plucked out of obscurity. My college was in Waltham, Massachusetts, and I was given an opportunity to be shown my talents, to be told and shown to the industry. But what came along with that too was an internship, and that turned into a lifelong love affair with advertising. So through those portals of internships and also professional development programs, we seek to bring people of color and people, again, who feel marginalized in this industry into rooms where typically they haven't been.
So talk about that feeling of marginalization. How does
Sure.
that play out on a day-to-day basis, and what does that mean for what you're actually able to accomplish as an organization or not?
Yeah, I think, you know, not to use something timely or trendy, but the lyrics to "We Are the Champion" by Queen always remind me.
That's a classic. You know,
it's a
you
classic.
You can use that. That's fine.
Thank you. It's a classic. Constantly remind me about doing the work for the people that are in the back. You know, and these are the individuals that, you know, sometimes because they didn't see it in their, you know, you had asked me before we went on, was your mom in the industry? I didn't go to I wasn't in a kindergarten class where there was like an ad man on the wall. It was usually, you know, a doctor or a lawyer. So there wasn't a real career path to advertising. So I think in general, you know, what you tend to feel in this industry is that if you can't see it, you can't be it. So it's creating opportunities to show that you indeed can not only be it, but you can be more than that. And so what it feels like, it's hard to describe. I mean, I came in to the industry and I was the most senior person of color at my agency, and I was an advertising an account executive, just to give you perspective. So yeah, it has been interestingly difficult in the beginning of my career, but I did a switch where I said, I don't necessarily want to be the first and only in the rooms, I want to be one of many. And so when I made that switch to say that I want to be the one helping others to come in, I think that's when not only my career blossomed, but hopefully I've helped other people's career blossom as well.
Did you have a person who was mentoring you to be the person who was mentoring others, or did you have to carve that path for yourself?
Totally.
Okay.
I had the distinct honor in April of 2018 to be on the cover of Adweek. And I was on the cover with my mentors. And these are the women that showed the way for me. And so, you know, I wear this sweatshirt, it was all a dream, and what was the next word?
I used to read Word Up magazine.
But in my case, I used to read Adweek magazine. And so to be on the cover, and to be on the cover with my mentors, Connie Frazier, and many others who paved the way for me. Again, we don't want to be the first and only, we want to be one of many. So we hope that in a couple of years' time, there were 5 of us on the cover, that there'll be 50.
Let's talk about a snapshot of the state of diversity. Well, first of all, let's kind of define diversity. You're speaking of it in terms of racial diversity. Do you have, is that the kind of area you play in?
It actually covers everything, and I think in the past 5 years, I would say that when I started my career in diversity, there was a focus and a push for me just to focus on ethnic diversity and not talk about LGBT and not talk about religious orientation or even veterans. It was not talked about. It was literally either black or white. And I knew that diversity was much complicated than that because of where I grew up in Boston, where I grew up with many different people from many different backgrounds. And so for me, I get asked a lot, define diversity. And what I say is define sameness. Do you want to be in an environment where everyone's the same? You want to be in an environment that's the opposite of that. And if you think of what that environment looks like, that's your diversity.
I like that. So give me a snapshot of where we are today in 2019.
We're better, but we haven't gone far enough. I think you can take a walk along these floors and you can see that diversity still has a long way to go. And I think the reasons why you come to these meccas of our industry, whether it's CES or other conferences that bring together everyone in one industry and you don't see a lot of diversity, is because at some point the industry did not take it upon themselves to really develop that talent through to the senior ranks. That somewhere along the line, they got off of that train to success. And I am an alumni of Inroads, which has been around since 1973. And a lot of Inroads alum are captains of industry because there was a program that did all the things that they needed to do to create these leaders of the industry and support them and give them what they need to succeed. Whereas other industries are like, here's your internship, best of luck, which is not enough.
So it has to be kind of a continual process throughout the career.
I'm still being supported, and I'm an officer in an amazing company, but I still need mentoring and I still need professional development. So I don't think it ever ends. And when you see that being done, you know that person's going to be successful and going to be in the business for a long time.
Let's talk about how you got a fan out there on the floor. People waving from while they're walking by the C-Space Influencer Studio here. It's all happening here at CES. A lot of energy here. Tell me about how diversity impacts the creative process. Let's dive into that a little bit more.
That's my favorite question.
I like the idea of defined sameness, but tell me how the creative sparks can fly.
Oh my goodness, when it doesn't fly. So I've been in rooms and I've been part of conversations where companies are so skittish they don't want to make a mistake. There's so many examples of when it's gone wrong. There's so many famous and public examples. And you figure out, and many people will say flippantly, oh, it's because who was in the room when that happened.
There wasn't an X person in the room, therefore this offensive thing to X kind of people
But it's
happened.
so much deeper than that.
Yeah.
It's like a culture, it's a company culture issue. Because one person was in and out of a room does not a bad ad make. You have to look at the ecosystem of the company and you have to say to yourself, what got them to that room where they could not speak? They could have been in the room, but maybe they couldn't speak. And so I think we have to be more open-minded about the complications that come from when, I'm almost talking about it like food, when an ad goes bad. We have to be a little bit more sensitive and a little bit more open-minded to the reasons why, and if we are, then we'll be able to learn from that.
So we're at the convergence of advertising and technology here at C-Space, at CES, but if you take those two industries apart, do you feel like one is more advanced than the other as far as diversity?
Not necessarily. I think one has more resources. I think if you flip it, we've made a lot of strides in the marketing and advertising industry, but we don't have the resources to keep going and to make it bigger and to make a long-term impact. Whereas in tech, they have the resources. It's innumerable, but they may not have the talent resources sometimes to actually make this stick. And plus, tech is so fast-moving. So you could put down a policy, you could put down an initiative one day, and something about the business changes, and that's going to have an effect on the kind of talent that you bring into the room. So I think we want to compare apples to apples, but it's really apples to oranges. It's two very different, very malleable industries. One has been doing it a little bit longer because they're an older industry, but there's not enough resources, I think, and I would like to see more resources to take it to the finish line.
You mentioned earlier in the conversation you hope to see some progress over the next couple of years. Is there something finite that needs to happen that hasn't happened yet, or is it kind of just a continuation and a continual pushing along all the things that are already happening in this area?
Yeah, I was at a panel last night in New York City regarding Time's Up and Me Too, and one of the things that I said, and I quoted this on my Facebook page as well, as I said, I have a very, very rambunctious niece. She's 3 years old. And every single day she asks me, where are you, Auntie? I can't do her voice, it's super cute. And what I think she's asking me is like, what are you doing? Not, where are you? And I tell her exactly what I'm doing. I'm like, I am in a meeting and I'm talking about this because I want her to know exactly what I'm doing. Because ultimately, years from now, I don't want her to say, Auntie, where were you? So that's what I say to people, and I challenge people. Years from now, where were you when this was going on and we had an opportunity to make a real change? Because I think it falls in our hands. You look what's going on in the world and government and society. I need not talk about that in a really intense way. I think we all know. So the responsibility, I think, now falls on corporate America and those of us who have this title to be the ones that hold the front line to keep progress moving, because we made so much progress, and none of us wants to take a step back or see progress go backwards.
Speaking of people who hold that title, do you have a sense of what percentage of companies have a chief diversity officer?
Yeah, I mean, I was the second one only in advertising when I came in, and this was 10 years ago.
Okay.
There's one other, so there's 3 of us with chief diversity officer titles. We do have chief diversities in networks. We do have we do have directors of diversity. I'm speaking specifically for the holding companies. But there's much more of us, which is cool. I had the burden early on in my career of being the one who really spoke out about diversity. And so everyone was like, you have to change everything about it. And I was all of like 30. And so it was overwhelming. It was a great masterclass, but it was overwhelming. I now feel like I'm part of a greater community, and we support each other across industries. So it's not just advertising, it's tech, it's marketing, it's publishing, it's PR. So
and obviously it's everyone's issue, right? It's not just
everyone's
about
issue.
having a chief diversity officer checking the box and saying, I got that person, then they're going to take care of it.
Or a high-level PR effort. It's actually, it has to be much greater than that. It has to be an authentic commitment to changing your company, therefore making your product better, and ultimately, which I know is Pollyanna, making the world better.
So obviously a lot of challenges ahead. What are you excited about for 2019?
I'm excited about, I had the chance to look, I was looking at a private art collection, and I saw this photo of a door, and it had a milk carton keeping the door open, and I was like, okay. And I'm thinking, I grew up in Roxbury, and we use a lot of things, we MacGyvered a lot of stuff, like, a hanger for an antenna for your TV. But I was just really pulled into that drawing, and I had asked the owner, I was like, what is this about? And he said, the milk carton represents Harvey Milk, and he's keeping the door open, the closet door open. And I think those of us who have this role, and those of us who want to change the world and society, essentially are like that milk carton. We're just trying to keep the door open so that other people can walk through. And so to me, what I'm most excited about is that I don't feel alone anymore. I think people who don't have my title want to help make this world better. They want to use their privilege and spend it and be a great ally. So I think I don't feel so much alone, which is exciting. I think 10 years ago, my answer would have been much different.
Well, thanks so much for joining us
Thank
here
you.
in the
This was
C-Space Influencer
awesome.
Studio.
Nice
Tiffany
to
R.
meet you.
Warren
Thank
of
you.
Omnicom.
Yes.
And thank you so much for watching us here in the C-Space Influencer Studio here at CES 2019. I'm James Kotecki. Keep it right here because more great conversations about the future are just ahead.